Hi.
We're live.
I'm Michelle Plazik, Remax Realty Advantage.
And I'm Kim Malden, Remax Realty Advantage. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, we're back in our office today.
Yay.
We've been off-site for 4 weeks in a row, I think.
Yep,
Right.
we've been out of our little space.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some loud construction noise going on in our space. We found other places to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
today we're talking about whether or not it's beneficial to buy or rent.
Yep.
That's a big controversy.
Yes.
There
are a lot of opinions on this.
There really are. There really are. We have determined between the two of us that it really just depends on the situation and, of course, the city that you're in.
Yeah. Well, and obviously we think it's better to buy because that's how we make our living. But no, really, I mean, objectively, it depends on your lifestyle, the city you live in, the situation you might be in. There's a lot that goes into it.
A lot goes into it.
So I think the first thing is really, how long do you plan on staying in one place?
That's the big question. We here in San Antonio have a lot of military, and so that's a big question for them. Most of them are only going to be here 3 years, and some of them are a little bit leery about buying, but we have a lot of military that will buy and sell within that 3 years.
I have a lot that buy and then rent because San Antonio
rent it out.
Is such, they rent it out because San Antonio is such a great city for military retirees to come back to.
Correct.
So they'll buy a home with the intention of renting it when they get moved and then coming back to it.
Yes,
so
I have that as well. But in my experience, since I've been here for 9 years, I have seen people make money by buying and selling within those 3 years.
Within those 3 years, absolutely.
San Antonio is a good market for that.
Yeah, and actually that was the next thing on the list is, do house prices always go up?
No, they don't always go up, but that's why you need to know how long you're going to be there.
Yeah.
Usually you have to be in a house at least 3 years to break even.
Yeah.
Just to break even.
And the average American moves every 5 to 7 years. So, so by the way, we'll see. Hi, Michael. Hi, Hussein. And hey, Nina.
Hey.
We got some people joining us today.
Yeah.
Hey.
So if you're going to stay in the house for 5 to 7 years, the average, then it does make sense to buy.
In San Antonio, you will cross that line where it's less expensive to buy a house than to rent in that time frame.
Yes.
There are other cities. Hawaii was a big state. Hawaii was one of the places where it takes a long time before it's actually less expensive to own a house than to rent.
There in California as well, because the houses are so expensive, rent is expensive as well, but it's still cheaper to rent.
Right.
The other thing, of course, you're always going to want to think about is what kind of lifestyle you live.
Yeah.
If you're a person who doesn't like to be home and not a homebody, then renting might be better for you.
Yeah. If you're someone who is not going to have time on the weekend to cut your grass, or you just don't want to have to deal with, any repairs that might need to be done, and you're okay with white walls or whatever the color walls are where you're renting, then, then renting might be a good thing for you. But if you really want to put your own personal stamp on your space where you live and you want to be able to be creative with it, then absolutely you might want to consider buying. Yeah.
Keep in mind when all of that costs money.
Right?
It does. I mean, if you want to change the color of the walls, that costs. You want to change the carpet to wood, that's going to cost you.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at the whether to rent or buy, it's not just about the money. It's not just about the payment.
Right.
Because sometimes it can be more and sometimes it can be less, but you have to decide whether you want to pay more in order to change those carpets. And
is this part of the lifestyle that you want to live? So there are things to consider. And then, of course, with a house, there's repairs. So if you're one of those people that's good at budgeting and you can put aside some money each month, then you don't really have to worry about when you need a new air conditioner. But if, you would really rather not have to do that, then you want to rent and you want to call the landlord and say, hey, the AC went out.
Come fix it.
Yep. Okay. So
as far as values go, again, it just depends on the city.
Really does. San Antonio is a great market. It really is. It does currently, I think it costs more to rent here than it does to buy here.
A lot of people nowadays are really looking at this rent versus buy question because of our big collapse that we had in 07 and 08. We didn't experience it here in San Antonio as badly as the rest of the country did because our prices here seem to increase at a very steady pace. They don't go spiking at all.
Yeah.
So if you don't spike up, then you're not going to spike down usually.
Exactly. Yeah.
We did come down, but it wasn't as big of a hit as some of the other
Right.
states did. So for us, I think it's still going to always be, you're always going to increase in value for the most part and for the long term.
So someone just asked opinions on home warranties because we were talking about repair costs. Pros and cons to everything. I would say, keep in mind that most home warranty companies, their job is to, repair instead of replace. Sorry about the distraction. But so you want to keep that in mind, and you also want to make sure that you look at your home warranty policy really closely to see what they do cover and what you've signed up for. So that's important as well on that question. I think our next thing was, how much are you saving on taxes if you buy a house?
You really have to take a look at the latest tax changes that were made with the Trump administration.
Yep.
Because things have changed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We're busy here today, which is good. It's good to be busy.
Buzz and activity going on.
The tax, depending on where you are in your tax bracket, may determine whether or not you're going to be able to take that standard deduction, or if you're going to be able to itemize as much as you did last year.
Right.
So you need to talk to your accountant about that.
And the biggest chunk of your interest that you're going to pay will always be at the front end of your mortgage. So, depending on the size of the house, the amount of house you buy, the money amount, the price, that's what I was going for.
There's other things too, like we bought a house 2 years ago and completely gutted it. So we had a lot of expense.
Yes.
So what we were able to do the year before last was take advantage of adding up all of the income tax that the sales tax that we had, because we bought quite a few things. And so we didn't take the standard deduction for sales tax anymore. We were able to itemize that. So things like that, you can itemize and have a better tax deduction than if you were renting. But then again, if you were renting, you wouldn't be doing the renovation.
Yeah, that's true. So let's see. And then, are you comparing apples to apples? Sorry, we have little notes we made ourselves, obviously, and I can't read. Are you comparing apples to apples? Well, then I guess I'm better off. Apples to apples. So, are you comparing your 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment that doesn't have a carport or a garage to a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house in a subdivision with a pool, whereas maybe your apartment doesn't have a pool? I don't know, but make sure that when you're making this decision for yourself that you're comparing apples to apples. Is when you say, is it cheaper? Because obviously I can go out and get a studio apartment and pay less for that than I pay for a mortgage, but then I don't have a backyard, which somebody mentioned backyards are supposed to be relaxing. That's why you may want to spend the extra money to hire someone to mow it for you. But yeah, you want to be sure you're comparing the same size house to the same size rental, whether it's an apartment or a house, with the same amenities.
While we're talking about prices and comparing, I just want to also point out that when you're online, a lot of these websites like Zillow and Trulia, for example, you'll see, own this house, your mortgage will be $1,492.
Right.
But they don't tell you is that the taxes aren't included in that,
or the insurance. Yes.
So that is just the mortgage principal and interest amount. That is not including any of the taxes. And that here in San Antonio could be a considerably more amount higher.
Absolutely. So again, that's apples to apples. You really want to know what's in your mortgage for that X number of dollars a month to the X number of dollars a month that you're paying for rent. So that, again, apples to apples, not just in what you're looking at, but what you're spending.
A good rule of thumb has always been you should not pay more than 25% of your gross income in your mortgage or rent payment. So that will come into play as a factor as to whether or not you are ready to buy.
Yeah.
Because if your payment's going to be $1,000 a month, you better be bringing in $4,000 a month. Don't think that you're going to be able to do it on anything less and be comfortable.
Well, and a lot of times I think our lenders, they're like, okay, you can spend up to this. And just because you're qualified to spend up to that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you necessarily should.
Right.
Nobody needs to be house poor. So keep that in mind too, because a lot of us, I don't think very many people stick to that 25% rule.
No, probably not.
I think they get enticed by all of the beautiful feature of a more expensive home. But if you can stick to that 25% rule, then you really will be doing yourself a favor.
Because keep in mind, if you're going from that 1-bedroom studio apartment to the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, your costs are going to increase. Your electricity, your water that you spend watering your lawn, and you didn't water a lawn before.
Yep.
So you do have to think about those things.
And
so
if you were in an apartment, you probably didn't even pay for water. Period.
Probably not.
So does the 25% rule include real estate taxes and homeowners insurance?
Yes.
It should, but again, very few people actually stick to that 25% rule. And it is, I mean, it's difficult. If you're making $100,000 a year, and you're looking at what you can buy, it's difficult. So you really do, you just need to take your overall budget and make sure that you stay in your comfort zone, because very few people are actually renting within the 25% rule right now.
Right. And, keep in mind that some people have 2 car payments.
Mhm.
So that rule of thumb doesn't necessarily apply to everyone,
Right.
but you just need to be in your comfort zone. But there's always a lot of extra expenses in home ownership that you're not used to for a first-time home buyer. You need to think about those things.
Right. And if you have questions, call us. We'll be happy to walk you through it. Obviously, we think home ownership is a great thing and that you should dive in head first. But we'll walk you in on the baby steps. So
There was somebody said that you're throwing your money away when you rent. And that's been around forever. People have said that, made that comment. What do you think about that comment?
I really think it depends on the person. I do think that a home is a good investment if you're going to keep it long enough for it to earn equity, and then either keep it as a rental if you move on, or cash out your equity and then have that money to put into something else. But I really would rather pay myself than pay someone else. And obviously that's why I'm not just a homeowner, but a realtor.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's true. We do like to sell houses, so we like people to buy.
Yeah, but I don't think I ever want to sell to someone and have them end up regretting.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have questions, we'll gladly answer them. And if it means you don't buy a house, that's perfectly fine. So I think that's it for now. And if you have any other questions, let us know. We'd be happy to answer and post them on our walls or give us a call.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye. Y'all have a great week. Bye-bye.